Okay, now, please tell us your name.
My name is Carly Jones. I am a rising junior at Duke University, and I'm on the pre-med track. My major is Program 2, which pretty much means I designed my own major, and the title is The Manifestations and Reproductions of Childhood Trauma. And so pretty much I'll be examining the genetic, neurobiological, and psychosocial footprints of trauma, and then studying how that trauma reproduces itself in communities through the victim offender overlap and just increased vulnerability of these individuals. And I guess that's all sort of going towards my future goal of being a pediatrician that specializes in child abuse and neglect.
Oh, that's amazing. That's wonderful to hear. And everything is going accordingly. No struggles or anything. You've been able to get all the resources and things you need to pursue your major.
I have. I'm still sort of seeking mentorship to help me, I guess, achieve the most out of my major, but it got approved last semester, and so everything's on track so far.
Yep, congratulations. I'm very happy to hear all of that. Why did you pick this major? Why was this important to you? What was the logic for why choosing this?
The summer of 2019, I did a research internship at a child abuse evaluation center, and just based on my experiences that summer and seeing the sort of like visceral pain that so many individuals are in, not only the victim of abuse, but their family, their community. I just felt that I could do a lot of good if I entered that sort of discipline. And I feel that's where my passion sort of lies.
Mhm. So I have a question for you. I think you know this about me, but maybe not. When I was 10, I was molested. And when I was 19, I was raped. And I'm still not sure what the difference is between those two words, but whatever. How does trauma manifest itself in a person? So what does it look like? Does it always turn to, as it's been said in a lot of areas, violence, or they become what they were? I mean, how does that really manifest itself?
Mm. So I'm definitely still in the beginning stages. And so I'm not sure if I could really be the authority on answering this question. But I do know that the majority of people who are abused when they're younger do not go on to commit those same sorts of offenses. But it can manifest in increased risks of heart attack, strokes, cancer, just various other um, autoimmune diseases down the line. So it definitely takes a huge physical toll, and of course, just the emotional toll as well.
And the health things that you identified are because your body hasn't processed the stress of the trauma, and so it manifests itself in other health issues.
Yes.
I think that's a great major. I hope you do really well in it. And as I've always told you, I'm always here, whatever you need. I am happy to help you get where you're going. I'm very, very proud of you. I tell you this a million times, you are your strength, and you just have to keep reaffirming that to yourself, that I am great. Keep
You
keep
definitely.
reminding yourself that, so, and what you're planning for the world is even greater. So I think that's pretty amazing.
Thank you.
So let me ask you another health question. So um, you're in the Midwest, yes?
Mm-hmm.
So what has the virus looked like for communities, especially Black and Brown communities in the Midwest? Have you heard, or is there any data out there about what it looks like, and how is it affecting them both psychologically and emotionally?
I'm not sure about the Midwest in particular, but do know based on just the trends in general in this country, the rates of infection and rates of death within the Black community are just a lot higher than in other demographics. And that's likely due to our community's like lack of access to healthcare, the systems of racism that exist in the medical community, and in addition, there's so many essential workers that just are disproportionately minority individuals. And so these are individuals who are forced to continue to go to work and put themselves in harm's way because we can't shut the economy down and we value the economy over human lives.
And what do you think about that? What does that bring to mind for you to think that we put money over lives?
Hmm. I mean, it's just absurd. And I believe it's someone once told me that there is no ethical capitalism, and I really believe that because within this model of capitalism, money is always going to reign king. And for those people who continue to go to work, then of course they should in no way be vilified because they're in the financial position where they have to work in order to provide for themselves and their families. We really should be critiquing and dismantling the system that forces them to go to work, that isn't providing, adequate unemployment support or stimulus checks and all that.
Mm, that's really great to hear that philosophy. So, in terms of healthcare, do you know anything about the statistics of healthcare workers, meaning gender, ethnicity, places where it's higher in one area than another? Do you have any data about where healthcare workers come from and why they pick, to work, maybe an ER nurse versus a GI nurse and those kinds of things? Any thoughts about that?
Well, an interesting statistic I heard a while ago is that the number of Black men in medicine has remained static since, I believe, the 1980s or 1990s. And I think that number is 3%. But I heard it a while ago, so I'm not sure if like the 3% is the correct number, but sort of the point is that that number has remained static. And that's just really ludicrous to me because representation in medicine and culturally competent mentorship for rising physicians is so important. And if we're going to give people the care that they need and deserve, then we need a variety of faces in medicine, not just people who have rode the tide of generational wealth and privilege, even if they are passionate about their fields. We need everyone in medicine.
Yeah, that's a really, really good thing there. So in medicine, as we know, and like most industries, it's dominated by white men. And there's a pitch in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, medicine degrees where women are beginning to get some traction in those areas. But there's also some statistics suggest that women leave before men do. Like men will be in that field until they retire or drop dead or whatever it is, where women tend to be, I don't even want to say the word pigeonhole, but somehow forced because you have to choose between family and work. How do you have a normal life and be a mother and a wife and a sister and a daughter and all that stuff? Do you have any concerns about that as you're considering medicine as a field?
I do. I believe that our society makes motherhood and a robust, long career mutually exclusive. And that's because with a huge burden of childcare is really placed exclusively on mothers in those crucial early years of life. And I believe that if we are going to keep women in these fields for longer, then we're going to need to provide child support. And we're going to need to put an emphasis on fathers being present for those early years of life and not that model of women staying home while the father continues to work. And I think that's going to come with offering paid paternity leave as well as paid maternity leave. And an interesting thing is that the US is the only developed country that does not have mandatory paid maternity leave.
You get FMLA, right? Family
Mm.
Medical Leave Act, right? That's what we get. And so navigating that sometimes can be difficult because You only have it for a certain amount of time in a calendar period. So yeah, I think there are a lot of things that stifle women in specifically in the science part of the world, technology and all that, because we're always trying to figure out how do we balance work life, and all that stuff. And I think this disease has really highlighted how stressful
Mhm.
healthcare workers have it. Because from what we've seen, many of the stories, you know, mothers are in the ER or in caring for COVID patients and can't see their kids for weeks on end. Um, that's a really sad statement that that's where we are, and and that we seem to be leaning further and further toward what's best for the economy versus what's best for the lives. We are. I think I saw somewhere we have like 3 million cases of COVID in America and almost 140,000 people dead. When you
Mhm.
do that percentage, that's not a good number. That's just really not a good number. And why we're that way, I don't know. I know the economy matters. People need jobs and all of that stuff. But we recovered from terrible economies before. We had the Great Depression, right? So, we recovered. The government had to do a little bit of work, but we recovered. So why
Money
now?
can be placed and lives cannot,
Right, exactly. And I think that when you kind of try to scope that out in your mind, like, so I don't know about where you are, but like for us, we're older. My husband and I are older. You know how old I am. We're older. We have 2 children, and what we try to do is mitigate risk to them. So we try to go out very infrequently. We're not going out every day. We're not going anywhere socially. We're going to the grocery store or pick up medicine, but that's all that we're doing. And so I think that it's a very interesting time, and
Mhm.
um, I can't wait to see what's on the other side. So I have to ask you this awkward question. Did you see the video of Mr. Floyd's death?
Um, I am well informed about the incident, but I never watched the video just because I've reached my limit. Um, like I love that the Black Lives Matter movement has gained so much momentum, but quite honestly, I found myself feeling very disillusioned and cynical because the summer of 2016, I remember when the murders of Alton Sterling and Philando Castile occurred. And, you know, I was just so present in like the social media storm that ensued. And that was all I saw on my timeline, just their murders being replayed. And I thought like, well, this has been filmed, like something has to happen, and nothing happened. And so to like, I don't know, continually process the trauma of seeing, a human being die right in front of your eyes, and then seeing that it wasn't enough to spark any real change, and that, these 4 years later, now this has happened and countless others in between, you know, I couldn't watch it.
Mm. Well, unfortunately, I've seen it a lot. And I think the visceral part of it is seeing a man not only with his knee on his neck, but his hand in his pocket. There's something about those two things that kind of they just seem unreal, that it could be that casual to kill someone. You could put your hand in your pocket while you're killing someone. And further, for me as a mother, to have a man laying on the ground calling for his mother who's long been dead, and that there's no empathy, there's no willingness to give this man a chance, and so we've heard the tapes of the other officers who are asking to have their charges dropped. Um, Club of mothers who've lost their sons is growing and growing and growing, and it doesn't seem like we're really poised to do anything about it. I love that the marches are more diverse. I
Mm.
love that more people are in tuned and are making an effort to understand what Black lives have encountered for a long time. But
Mm.
you also have indigenous people who have been through the worst too. They've had terrible things happen to them. You had Chinese and Japanese internment camps. Everything you could possibly think of our society has done to people for some reason that's not really logical to me. And to think that people No, I really don't believe people want to defund the police. In other words, don't give them any money. I think what they want them to do is do a better job of using the resources they have to train themselves to protect and serve and to de-escalate as opposed to escalate. You that do you think that's the case, or do you think there's another idea behind defund the police?
I really think that in when we're calling for an end to the violence and an end to the murders, defunding the police is a ramp of accessibility to that goal, but it's just not enough. This is not going to stop until we abolish the police as a whole. They are they were founded in a racist system. They were originally slave patrols, and to an extent, that ideology has just been reproduced since their genesis. The way we train police, um, the way that they're not equipped to handle issues of domestic violence, mental health issues, they really don't de escalate situations. um, just the system needs to go. And so the onus is upon us to sort of, you know, discover new ways of how we are regulating our communities. And it doesn't have to be the police. And the police are just like such a central part of our idea of law and order that many people just can't imagine a world without the police. But that world looks like a wealthy white suburb. You know, even just attending predominantly white institutions, and interacting with, you know, so many of my white peers, then I see these behaviors, drinking, smoking, that, you know, they just go unpoliced. And these are the same things that people are spending years in jail for. And so white wealthy suburbs have not fallen into ruin because they're not being policed, you know? And so I believe that a world can exist without police, but it just, you know, comes upon us to really, you know, participate in this exercise in creativity and do the work to make sure that we have systems in place that will be just multitudes better than the police. Why are we deploying police for mental health issues? Why are we not deploying mental health professionals? You know, when someone is suspected of being about to commit suicide, why are we calling the police for that? Why are we calling the police for domestic disturbances, but not also calling child welfare workers domestic violence advocates when police don't really receive that training in domestic violence? So it's just, you know, we can train individuals to respond to what police are responding to and do so without violence.
That's beautiful. It's very, very nice. So let me ask you this question: what have you thought about the upcoming election? You know, I know I've heard a lot of young people be really, bothered by the fact that a younger or white female or something that was not chosen to be the presumptive candidate. Um, what are your thoughts about this upcoming election? In other words, are you going to vote? Do you have some misgivings about what would mean to either have this president reelected or to have uh, um, former Vice President Biden elected? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I am definitely going to vote just because voting is so important, especially voting in local elections, because that's where so much of, you know, the legislation with direct impact on our direct and immediate impact on our communities happens. But I'll definitely be voting in this presidential election. And I mean, I don't know. It's really hard for me to feel optimistic about it because President Donald Trump has been incompetent since before he was elected. And just, I feel like there's no reasoning with the people who have voted for him because, you know, just throughout his tenure as president, he's done nothing but reaffirm and reinforce his incompetence. And, you know, his support has remained static at 40%, you know, even with this bungled response to COVID, even with, you know, the way he hasn't addressed police brutality and all these other things, everything going on with ICE. It's just, that 40%. And so I'm not sure if the outcome is going to be any different this election. I mean, I hope it is, because there's definitely some healing that needs to occur within this country that just cannot happen with him in office. And of course, you know, former Vice President Joe Biden has had sexual assault allegations against him. And so he is not the perfect candidate, but he is the lesser of the two evils. And I believe he needs to be in office for us to move forward as a nation. And then recently, Kanye has announced his campaign for president, which I think is just so insanely selfish. Like, if we're going to vote President Trump out of office, we need the full force of, whoever's not voting for Trump. And so for Kanye to come in and announce his campaign is just further dividing, an already pretty unstable voter base. And it blows my mind, honestly.
Yeah, but I do think that there is a little bit of hope. He waited too late to register to put himself in the pool. So there's going to be a lot of states he's not going to be able to get on. And I mean, there are only I think 3 or 4 more primary elections left before we get to November. There's not a lot. So maybe there's that. But I do agree with you. It doesn't seem like, and I mean, maybe he's making a run for the next time. Maybe he just wants his name out there so that when 2024 comes around, he can be I do not know. It's just strange to me. I don't know. I agree with you wholeheartedly about that. So, if you had a magic wand, what would be the thing you change in our world to make it better?
I mean, there's so much wrong with this world. It would take, an infinite number of lifetimes to even be able to chip away at everything. But I think if I could wave my magic wand, then I would give people a heightened sense of empathy, because I feel like so many of our problems are derived from a lack of empathy. Homelessness, hunger, war, police brutality, everything. It's just, if we could get people to genuinely care about other people or a cause that doesn't, personally affect them or personally touch them, then the world would be a lot better place.
That's beautiful, Carly. Absolutely beautiful. So you have about 3 minutes. I'm gonna leave you the last 3 minutes to say whatever you want to share with us. So anything you want to say, yours.
I guess for my last 3 minutes, I just want to sort of reaffirm the importance of self-care, especially at a time like this. I mean, on top of the insane stress of this pandemic, what's happened with international students recently and the prospect of, being deported from the country, which is just, ridiculous. That, in addition to, police brutality and its visibility. It's so important to just pour into yourself, to step away from social media if you need to, and you are not any weaker for that. You are not a beast of burden, and you do not have to. I mean, with social media, we're just more connected than ever before, and we as human beings are not meant to process the trauma of millions of people, of multiple countries. It's not healthy. And so you're not any weaker for stepping away. And it's one of the most noble things you can do to care for and protect yourself. Because, if you're left uncared for, who else is going to do that? There's no better advocate for you than yourself. And it works dually, because not only are you healthy, but being in a better place, you're able to then lift as you climb. And so helping yourself is helping other people.
That's absolutely beautiful. But I think that speaks to your spirit, Miss Carly. You are absolutely a phenomenal human being. And I am so glad to be a part of your life. And I'm so glad that we will be together for as long as I live, you know, and I will be standing right there in your corner cheering, you, rah, rah, rah. And, you know, you know, for people who may not know you and they watch these videos, I think what you exude always is humanity. And that's always exceptionally beautiful to see humanity, especially in a people who we've had very little bit of humanity given to us. So I am on your team always.
And it's such a privilege and a blessing to know someone as beautiful from the inside out as you.
Same here. Right back at you, girl. Right back at you. So when are you said you are coming back to Durham, or are you going to do the online learning? You're coming back to Durham. So
I'm to Durham. Yeah.
so I will get to see you at some point. I know I will. I love you and thank you very much.
I love you too. Thank you for calling. Have
Absolutely.
a good your day.
You too. Rest. Take care of you. Remember you said now you got to take care of you.
I will try to remember you too.
Okay, dear. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.